Okay, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wa salatu wa salam ala Sayyidil Mursaleen. Amma ba'd. So, you guys. Right, what does that say on the board?
Africa.
Why is the Kaaba next to Africa? And why is there water there? And what's that red thing?
Africa.
That's meant to be Africa.
So terrible.
No, it's fine. No, it's very good. It's a good attempt. Africa is next to Saudi Arabia, right? And they were in Mecca. What was that? What was happening in Mecca?
Boycott?
Before that?
Like
After the Prophet ﷺ started calling people to Islam, what was happening?
people was trying to hurt him.
They hurt him, being rude, fighting, hitting. You know the story of Bilal. All of that was going on. So what the Prophet ﷺ said, go to Africa. You have to go in the water and you have to cross the water on a boat and go to Africa. Africa, there is a Christian king there. Give up. There's a Christian king there. He wasn't even a Muslim. Go to the Christian king and he will look after you because he's fair. Now this is very important. Why do you think this is important? They've gone to Africa to live next to a Christian. Saleh, get back. Sit down. Sit down. Sit down. Sit still. Why is it important that they've gone to a non-Muslim country? I think I'm just giving you the answer. The Prophet...
So they can be safe.
So they can be safe. And what we learn from this is that you go to a non-Muslim country, yeah, and you can live there and you can be friends with non-Muslims. You can be there and everything is fine and you can look after each other and you can be friends with each other and you can protect each other and you can be nice to each other even if you've got different religions. And the Prophet ﷺ told them that look, you can go from Mecca because these guys are rude non-Muslims. Go to another place where you have nice
But
non-Muslims.
they found out.
Go to a country where there are nice non-Muslims and go and stay there and be nice to them. And this is very important because if you've got non-Muslims and they are looking after you and they are your friends and they're not being mean, then Islam says you have to be nice back to them. And you can't
they
be rude.
could be Muslims.
Maybe they might even become Muslims, it's true. But even if they don't, you still have to be nice to them. And you still have to be good to them. And you can't say bad things to them. And you can't be rude to them. And you can't cheat them. And you cannot annoy them. So the Prophet ﷺ said, go there and go live there. Because the guy who was there, the king at that time, his name was Najashi. What was his name? If you could write it on the board for us, please.
I can write it.
No, just leave it. I'll write it here. Oh, I can't reach. All right. Najashi. His name was...
Here.
I can't reach it. His name
Let's
was...
do it at the bottom.
His name was...
Najashi.
What was his name?
I can write
Alright, what his name was?
Okay.
Najashi. What was his name?
Najashi.
Najashi. Good, right. So they went there, and guess what happened? Meanwhile, back at the Kaaba, Surah An... Oh, this pen's not working. Najm was revealed. And Surah Najm is a very long surah. And in Surah Najm, Allah talks about Ibrahim and the religion of Ibrahim and how Ibrahim was such a nice man and he has Tawheed and everything. And at the end of the surah, there is a sijda. What does a sijda mean, Saleh?
You do sijda.
You do a sijda for recitation, isn't it? Like we were doing today in Surah Al-Inshiqaq. Yeah? So there is a sijda. فَمَا لَهُمْ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ إِذَا قُرِئَ
Just like the ship.
Yeah, just like the shaykh the sijda. So now, when sometimes in some places in the Quran, Allah tells us to do sijda. So what happens in the end of Surah Najm, there is a sijda. Guess what happens? All the mushriks are listening to the Quran, the Muslims are listening to the Quran, and they all end up doing sijda next to the Kaaba, the Muslims and the non-Muslims.
Non-Muslims?
So now the people in
Africa.
yeah, well, I don't know if he was there, but people were there. Now, the people in Africa have found out, meanwhile, back at the Kaaba, Surah Najm has been revealed and they've become Muslim. Let's go back. So they came back. And guess what happened? The story was not true. And this is very important. Do not spread untrue stories. They came back And they didn't become Muslim. They only made Sijda. That doesn't mean they became Muslim. They only made Sijda because the surah was very, very strong and powerful, and it made them feel like they wanted to do Sijda. But after they did Sijda, they're like, I don't want to be Muslim. Why did I do Sijda for? So guess what?
What?
They came back, and this time they started beating them even more. And they said, well, how dare you leave Makkah? Now the Prophet ﷺ said, you know what? You need to go back to Africa. And now the king will look after you again. And this time, when they went back, they had more than 100 people. The first time they went, there was only 12 of them. But this time now, they had nearly 100 people going back to Africa.
You said more.
Oh, sorry. They had nearly 100 people going back to Africa. But this time, guess what happened? The Quraysh found out. And the Quraysh chased them. And they went to Najashi with presents and nice gifts and things like that. And they said to Najashi, listen. We've bought you presents. These guys don't even have any presents. Listen to us. So Najashi listened to the people of Quraysh. And the people of Quraysh said, these guys are bad. They're going to come into your country. They're going to mess everything up. They're going to be criminals. They're going to lie to you. They're going to say bad things about your religion. And Najashi said, no. Let me hear what they have to say. And this is how fair he was. He didn't just listen to one side. He listened to both sides. So if somebody tells you something, you have to listen. Yeah, you never know who's lying, do you? So you have to listen to what? You listen to just one person, or you listen to both people? You have to listen to both people, don't you? Then you can find out who's saying the truth. So if Sulaiman says, this Ayub took my pen, and Ayub says, no, I didn't, it was my pen. Whose story are you going to believe?
Ayub.
How do you know?
No.
You have to listen to
Who is
Sulaiman and Ayub. Ayub said, Sulaiman took my pen. And Sulaiman said, no, it was my pen. Or was it the other way around? Anyway, whatever the case, how are you going to find the right answer? You have to listen to both people. So now Najashi wanted to listen to the people of Quraysh, and he wanted to listen to the Muslims also. So Ja'far, the brother of Ali ibn Abi Talib, he spoke to him. And he said, O king, we are good people. And the Prophet ﷺ has told us to leave shirk, and to stop doing bad deeds, and to be nice to each other. So I'll put that book down. Come sit down here, please. And to be nice to each other, just like what I've just said. Stop doing sins, paying attention, being good to each other. And the king said, well, that's a nice religion. I've got nothing wrong with that. And then he goes, you can live in my country for as long as you want. So the Quraysh were going to go back. These two men from the Quraysh, they were going to go back. Saleh, push it away. They were going to go back to Makkah. And one guy said to the other, oh no, we've lost now and they're going to stay here. But the other guy, his name was Amr ibn As. What was his name? He said, no, I've got a plan. So the next day they went to see Najashi again. And they said to Najashi, they say bad things about Isa and Maryam. Stop doing that. Stop doing that. They say bad things about Isa and Maryam. Trust me, you don't want them to stay in your country. Now, well, according to Christians, we do say bad things about them. According to Christians, because they believe that he is the Son of God, but we don't believe that. So they won't accept that. So now, Najashi, what do you think he's going to do? Is he going to put them in prison? What's he going to do?
Wait for them to say.
Good. He has to now, because he's fair, he has to listen to the other people. So now he called them again. And Ja'far started reciting Quran where he's talking about Maryam, where he's talking about Isa, where he's talking about Zakaria. Why are you talking about Zakaria?
Because he's Maryam and his uncle.
Yeah, uncle, yeah. And Yahya is Isa's cousin. So now Ja'far is reciting these ayat from the Quran, and Najashi is getting happy, and he said, yes, this is the religion I followed. I don't believe Isa is the Son of God. I don't believe Isa is God. So now, in actual fact, their plan was to bring them back and to spoil it, and now it's actually got worse because the plan failed. And the king eventually becomes Muslim. Because at that time, some Christians believed that there was only one God. and they didn't believe in Isa being the son of God. And some of them still believe that, and some believe, and most Christians now believe that Christian belief is that Isa is God, or Isa is the son of God. But Najashi didn't believe in that. So when he had the Quran and he heard what the Quran was telling them about what we believe, he believed it straight away. So the moral of the story, the moral of today's story is that when things got bad, we are, in Islam, we should go away from those bad people. So now, because the things were really bad in Makkah, the Prophet ﷺ told the Muslims, get away from bad people. Get away from bad people saying bad things. Get away from bad actions and go to a place where you can have good people doing good actions and saying good things. Do you understand? And that we should live in the country that we're living in a nice way, in a respectable way, in a way that's not going to harm people and annoy people and be rude to people. What else do you learn from today's story?
That it means to be kind and fair.
Good, well done. Yeah, so you should listen to both sides of the story. What else did you learn from today's story, Muhammad? That you make sajda when you do Quran. Yeah, some ayat have sajda in the Quran. Well done. Right, that's the end of today's story. That's episode 15. Inshallah, tomorrow we're going to do another part of the Quran, of the Seerah. هذا والله أعلم وصلى اللهم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين.